Good morning. This morning I'd like to share with you another one of George MacDonald's poems that I've set to my own melody. This one was brought to my attention by a Facebook friend who posted it on the George MacDonald Facebook group. And I was really delighted by it. It's been a long time since I've read through the two volumes of George MacDonald's collected poems, and I didn't remember this one. I love how MacDonald has it filed under the section Minor Ditties. But as I think we're going to see together here this morning, it's much more than just a minor ditty. It has a serious and powerful message. It is written and structured as a hymn for children, a song for the little ones, but little ones of all ages. Just as everything that George MacDonald wrote is directed to the little ones of all ages. And so in writing the melody, I tried to make it reflect that, something light, repetitive, sing-song, childlike in nature, and yet hopefully it captures the buoyancy of the message. I'm just going to sing it first for you, and then we'll go through it verse by verse, as we've done with some of these other hymns that MacDonald has written. Ready? Love alone is great in might, makes the heavy burden light, smooths rough ways to weary feet, makes the bitter morsel sweet. Love alone is strength. Love alone is strength. Might that is not born of love is not might born from above, has its birthplace down below, where they neither reap nor sow. Love alone is strength. Love alone is strength. Love is stronger than all force, is its own eternal source. Might is always in decay. Love grows fresher every day. Love alone is strength. Love alone is strength. Little ones, no ill can chance. Fear ye not, but sing and dance. Though the high-heaved hand should fall, God is plenty for us all. God is love and strength. God is love and strength. All right. Now, let's start back with the first verse, and we're going to go through it slowly and meditatively, and just let's dwell on some of the thoughts that may suggest to us. I'm sure that we'll only capture a few of the many thoughts that it may suggest, but hopefully the ones we'll capture will help us allow this to be an encouragement to our spirits today. All right. First verse. Love alone is great in might, makes the heavy burden light, smooths rough ways to weary feet, makes the bitter morsel sweet. Love alone is strength. At first, this may seem to be just conventional, a little Victorian lyric about simple family love and self-sacrificing love and how it makes the world go round. And we can read it that way. We can read it in that maybe saccharine, sentimental way. as extolling the virtues of selfless love. And to a certain extent, as long as we are able to really enter into that, there's nothing wrong with that. But I personally have felt the need for more there. I don't know about you, and everybody's experience is different, but I've lived under, for many years, I lived under the oppression of the Christian message of selflessness, that our goal was to become selfless, deny ourselves, and not do what we want to do, but instead do what other people want us to do, because our goal in life is to serve other people. And I experienced that as an oppressive message, and as something which I could never live up to. And to a certain extent, I believe that MacDonald grew up with that too, that he had it hammered into him from his childhood, that it was his job to give up what he wanted for his family, for his siblings, etc. And he grew up that way, with that heavy sense of moral responsibility, and then carried that into his own family. And from the testimony of his own children, they adored their father. But some things that Grebel said makes us think that MacDonald really expected his children to be self-sacrificing and guard against selfishness and sacrifice their own lives often for the good of the family whole. And to a certain extent, that led to some sad situations, like Lilia, not being able to pursue her acting career, although she was fabulously gifted in all accounts. There was much more that went into it, and I don't mean to suggest that MacDonald was a bad parent. His children loved him. But to a certain extent, I think it's fair to say that MacDonald lived under that that really heavy, not just Victorian, but Christian burden of it's our duty to be loving, be unselfish. But of course, that's not what this song is about, and I don't really want to start this little meditation on that huge downer here, right? The message of this first verse is that love is not burdensome, that in fact it makes life bearable. It makes the heavy burden light. It smooths rough ways to weary feet. It makes the bitter morsel sweet. Not just the bitter morsel of, oh, I've got to be unselfish, but life itself. That life was not meant to be burdensome to us, that God did not intend it to be burdensome to us. He didn't intend love to be this great, huge moral thing that we have to attain and can't. But he meant life to be simple. He meant it to be sweet. He meant it to be that his burden is light, right? His yoke is easy, his burden is light. And he meant us to discover this, that far from being burdensome, love is the thing that makes all of life easy. That's been a challenge to me personally, to discover in my 44 years. I'm still learning it, just barely beginning. But I know that it's my desire, and I think it's that way for many of us who have lived in the milieu of Christianity from our childhood, and are now trying to rediscover our Christianity in a positive way, in a way that does not fight against what we've learned about how the human personality works and how it best thrives. We're going to return to that idea as we go through this poem. But let's go on now and let's see how subversive this poem actually is, and that it's not just a cute little children's poem. Not that MacDonald was in the habit of just writing cute little children's poems. But let's go on to this second verse. Might that is not born of love is not might born from above, has its birthplace down below, where they neither reap nor sow, Love alone is strength. Whoa, now suddenly we've gotten political. Now suddenly we've gotten into the Magnificat, cast down the mighty from their lofty dominions. What human beings think is power is on its way out, is not what God thinks is power. And so it is perishing. And Jesus comes to this world to announce that the principalities and the powers their days are numbered. And I think that's really encouraging to all of us who may feel a little bit oppressed by current political developments, whether you're in Great Britain or Europe or whether you're in the United States like me. I think that's really encouraging for us right now. And it really doesn't matter where you identify yourself. I am politically non-binary, as I like to say, and also as a teacher, I'm kind of a political eunuch because it's not my job to express my political thoughts and to influence to use my influence in the classroom to influence my students that way would be an abuse of power. And it's not that I don't have my own opinions, and it's not that I'm not deeply troubled by things. But I would rather dwell on, as I think George MacDonald did, and on the resurrection and on the reality that help is on the way. Let's not lose our minds here with the rest of the world, even if the rest of the world is losing its mind. Let's not run here and let's not give in to the temptation to despair. I'm rereading The Lord of the Rings to my kids right now by popular demand. This is only the second time. They're still young. This is only the second time they've heard it, and they're excited to read through it again. But even if Mordor is extending out its long arms everywhere and it seems like everything's under the shadow, let's not play by those rules, because the might that is not born of love is not might born from above. It has its birthplace down below. It's not in God's vocabulary. It's not a divine category, that kind of power. And no matter what, if you identify with a side, then you're going to abuse power as soon as you have it. And as soon as you have it, you're going to use it to suppress the other side and take their rights away and use it to enforce your vision of the way that things should be on them. And no matter how good and how glorious your vision is of how things should be, and no matter how much you think it's so much better than the other side's vision of the way things should be, it just doesn't work. Might that's not born of love is not might born from above. It's barren. It's fruitless. It's tempted to say, does this third line really, this fourth line here have any meaning, where they neither reap nor sow? Is that a really felicitous choice of words here? Obviously, right? They're sowing the wind and they're reaping the whirlwind, right? They are reaping, they are sowing. Everybody does. But I think that this line is meant to express the barrenness, the inability to propagate, the inability, it seems like it propagates everywhere, right? But the ultimate barrenness, like sterilized seeds of this kind of power that's not born from above, it's a totally mistaken conception of power, and it's not tied in. Tied in is maybe not the best word, but it's not one with the eternal way of things, and therefore is temporary and not fertile. I think this is very encouraging. It's very much in the tradition of the prophets and in the tradition of the Magnificat and the Nunc Dimittis of the announcing of Jesus' coming. And of course, this message is carried right on into the third verse. So let's go on into the third verse. Love is stronger than all force, is its own eternal source. Might is always in decay, love grows fresher every day. Love alone is strength. love alone is strength. So he doubles down, right, on this. And this little children's poem, which seemed to be extolling the virtues of domestic harmony, now continues this cosmic statement about the world. I love this. Love is its own eternal source. Love is self-generating. I think, one of the great oppressions of the conventional Christian view is the practical way that we think that we have to generate love. I say practical because in our doctrine, we don't believe that it's up to us to generate love. But the way we live our lives often is that, how am I going to generate this love? Or, which is just, I think, as exhausting and just as fruitless, we bemoan the fact that we can't find any love in ourselves. And we come to God and we say, I have nothing, I don't have it. It's not in me, I have nothing. But you're everything, and just flow through me. Let your love flow through me. And we have this Christian conception that it's our duty and our purpose to let God's life and his love flow through us to other people. The problem with that image, and it's not wholly false, but it's not nearly wholly false. There's tons of truth in it. But what I don't like about it is that obviously, the pipe, the tube, the conduit is inert and passive. And that's not God's vision, right? What has helped me so much is to begin to see myself not as the tube, the pipe through which God's life and love flows, or trying to get it that way, but instead as the water that flows, as that I myself am the medium, I myself am that which flows, and instead praying that God will teach me to flow out with him towards the virtues, towards other people, towards him. And I get that from the 14th century Flemish mystic Jan van Ruysbroek, and how he wrote this whole incredibly complex, glorious treatise on the verse from Matthew 25, "Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him." And it's like 5-7 words in Latin, and yet he expands it in all these expanding circles of significance. But it becomes this whole meditation on go out. And he talks about going out with God. So I have found personally that it's so much more fruitful to see myself as the water that flows, and almost God as the potential or kinetic energy in the water that causes it to flow. Alternatively, we can see ourselves as not as an alien nature from God, but both God and us are the water, and His eternal spring is within us. Love is self-renewing, self-generating, eternally self-generating, just as it is in the Trinity, and therefore it's its own power. I love, and I've mentioned this elsewhere, but one of the quotes from George MacDonald, which has meant the most to me throughout, for 20 years, I think, now at least, is this one from The History of Photogen and Nycteris, where he describes the heart of Nycteris, and he says, "Her heart, like every human heart, if only its fallen sides were cleared away, was an inexhaustible fountain of love. She loved everything that she saw." What a positive vision of our human selfhood. That the human heart naturally, in its nature, is an inexhaustible fountain of love. That all that needs to happen is that the blockages just need to be scooped away like that fallen turf and leaves. And I can imagine, you see walking in the mountains in Idaho and Washington where I used to live, for 20 years, so many springs, so many little springs along the path. And if you just clear away the leaves, and the dirt and the pine needles that have fallen over it, in a few minutes it's just bubbling along clear over the path. And the mud is cleared away, and it's just this perfectly clear, cold little spring along the path. And that's what I picture here, and also in that quote from Photogen and Nycteris. He could have used the word love grows stronger every day. The whole thing has been about strength, but here it's fresher as opposed to decay. Might is always in decay, right? Human systems, the powers and the principalities, they're always on their way out. And whatever you think of the work of N.T. Wright, I love how he thoroughly works the vision of the resurrection into a hope for where we are right now in human history. That the kingdom is here, and we are getting closer and closer to the time when the unjust human powers will be completely shown up for what they are and deprived of their power, and true right will be established, not by human power, and we don't have to worry about exactly how that's going to happen. We can start by becoming free from fear ourselves, and I think that's the best thing that we can do for the world. That's the best thing we can do for ourselves. That's the best thing we can do for our spouses and our children and our neighbors and coworkers and friends and students. The best thing, perhaps the only thing that we can do, is to become free from fear, and that's where he sends this, and that's where he wraps this poem. Little ones, no ill can chance, fear ye not, but sing and dance. Though the high-heaved heaven should fall, God is plenty for us all. God is love and strength. God is love and strength. What a glorious way to wrap up this poem. First, the address, little ones. Little ones, right? Like the little ones in Lilith. I'm sure this was probably written before Lilith. But we can picture it that same way, or the little ones that he addresses a couple of his Christmas poems to. Little ones. Little ones like the little flock, right? Fear not, for God has willed to, God the Father has chosen to give you the kingdom. Little ones, don't be afraid. No ill can chance. Wow, that is such a great challenge to us, to believe that no ill can chance. That we are not under the dominion of chance. We are not subject to the laws of randomness. That yes, things happen to us, right? But nothing, no final disaster, nothing that is finally a disaster, nothing that is not on balance any more than an opportunity for life to be revealed in a greater way for us. The idea that we can be unafraid, that no ill can chance, right? Jesus spoke the message. It's there in his recorded words. If you look at, the percentage of what he says, what Jesus chooses to dwell on in his sermons, it's right there that he wants us to live carefree as little ones, as ones who have everything rested on their Father to take care of, and who see their purpose simply to sing and dance through the world. I think it's true, whether you're a craftsman or a laborer or a helper in the human sphere, like a teacher or doctor, or you work with people, or whether you serve and take care of people's appliances and homes. Whatever you do, right? Whatever you do, it's your song. And we're free to sing. We're free to sing. I recently read Glenn Warlock, where he makes friends of a jeweler. And the jeweler doesn't see how he can conduct his business in a way that is not just trying to get his own advantage from his customers. And Cosmo helps him envision how he can actually conduct a business. Yeah, maybe not get rich, but conduct a business that allows him to make a living and not abandon that business, and yet conduct it in a way that truly has the good of his customers in mind. And MacDonald tries to envision this with a lot of professions and in a lot of different novels, right? We can be the little ones that sing and dance through the world no matter what our vocation is, and whether it's a vocation or if it's just our labor. Too often I think Christians have the wrong view of vocation. That's probably a story for another day. Now, right, whatever disaster appears to be, though the high-heaved heaven should fall, God is plenty for us all. I love that word, plenty. I think I have lived in a world where there's not plenty, right? I've lived in a world of not plenty, a world of where the universe is stingy and therefore where I am tempted to be stingy emotionally in the way that I approach, whether it's my children, my students, or myself. But God is plenty for us all. If we could really dwell on that, if we could really internalize that plenty, then it's not going to be hard, right? Then we can return to this first verse, and then the heavy burden's light, the rough ways are smooth, the bitter morsel is sweet. When is that? Oh, when we see that God is plenty for us all. When we dwell in that plenty and just allow the spring to flow and the fallen sides to be cleared away. I think just the vision of the universe as a generous place to be is enough to help start clearing away those fallen sides and allowing our own spring to flow. Okay, I've rhapsodized and blabbered on for a really long time now about this, kind of in a freewheeling meditation on this. And I'm sure there's much more that could be said, and I think it's time to wrap this up. But I hope that this just gives you a little thought of what a refreshing and powerful little song this could be, and what an encouragement it could be to us in our situation, in our world, where we are right now. Remember that MacDonald inhabited a very troubled world politically and as well. And this is his answer, among many other things that he wrote. Thank you, and look forward to talking to you again.